Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood turning tools. Made by a wood turner for wood turners.
Well, making a mouse sounds kind of like a goofy project. No, not that either? Okay. But it's a great way to get rid of scrap wood. It's just a simple piece of maple here, and then we had a little bit of leftover ebony to make the beady eyes. And I like that because you can make them any size you want. You know, this one's the size of Mars. This one's the size of Pluto. No, not that one either? Okay. Well, anyway, let's just keep going with this. And you can see I have my scrap laying around, and it can be any size, any shape. So please don't email me saying, what size of piece of wood was that? Because I won't remember by the time you get back with me. But we're going to continue the scrap theme all the way through, because not only are we going to use scrap wood for the mouse, we're going to use scrap leather for the ears and the tail on here. And it's really cool. We have a store called Michael's around here, and it's a craft store. Yes, I had to turn in my man card. But anyway, you can go there and you find packages of scrap leather for like $6. And this stuff's really cool because it's not any use to anybody but us. But I think I can make enough ears here to redo the movie Ben. Okay, we've waltzed over to the lathe. Not that one either. Anyway, I've got the blank of wood mounted on the lathe, and our mouse is going to be shaped just like this inside the piece. Nose, tail. It's a real simple project, and if you're a beginning turner, this is a great one to start with. The first thing we're going to use is our roughing gouge, and I've already spun the wood to make sure it's not hitting the tool rest. We'll turn this on, and since it's a small spindle turning, I can bring the speed up on the lathe pretty good. And that's a little too good. How about that? Somebody asked me once how fast you turn the lathe. I said I turn it up till it's scary, then I turn it back just a little bit further. Anyway, if you're a beginning turner, what you want to do is have the tool into your side like so, and you have your hand down here by your hip, and that's why I like these long handles, so it's into me in one piece right here. So when I move my body, the whole thing moves. Now as a beginner, you probably want to start right here in the center, and when you start making contact, raise the handle just a bit and it cuts, and slide your way over to the side. Come back, you lower the hand a little bit, raise it back up, come back. Again, my fingers are pinching right here, and this finger is kind of a depth stop, so it doesn't go forward, it won't push on me like that. I can just hold it nice and tight, and then come back. Now as you get a little bit more advanced, you can come back to here to this edge, and just go ahead and do the roughing cut all the way across. The only reason I suggest that you do this as a beginner with this start in the middle is because there's not a good chance, but there's kind of a chance when you come out to this spinning edge that if you're a little too quick with it, you can get too much wood and get a catch. But it's really something that's it's going to become second nature once you get it figured out. Beautiful shavings coming off. This tool is nice and sharp. See them flying there? Aren't they great? I love making shavings. Now you can hear the vibration sound is starting to go away. And take the tool like so. We're smoothing round. Now the next tool I want to go to is my spindle gouge. And spindle gouges come in different sizes. And the one I want right now is my wide spindle gouge. This is about a 1/2 inch. And the reason I like a 1/2 inch when I'm doing big fat curves is because it makes it easier to do the big fat curve. And so it's kind of like driving a bus instead of our Ferrari. I'll bring the Ferrari out in a minute when we get a little bit closer. Now this tool rest, you can see I have too much of a gap here. So I'm going to bring it in, and then because this is narrower and I brought it in, I'm way too low with my handle to get the bevel to rub, so I'm just going to take the tool rest and raise it up just a tick right there. Now again, it's just kind of like telling you what size wood I'm using. I can't tell you exactly how far I'm moving the tool rest. I'm moving it enough to where I can get the bevel to rub like so, and the handle's in a comfortable position. You get too far down, it's harder to cut. You get too high up, you're scraping. So in this position, this is just about right for making a good cut. Now, as you can see by the rear end of our mouse here, his butt is a bead. Yes, I said that. Anyway, here we go. We're going to start making our bead. I'm making contact, and you see I'm still moving my whole body as I do this. And I'm just taking a little bit off at a time because kids, as we all know, you sneak up on a bead. You can see I left a little bit of wood there because I'm already in my mind trying to figure out that I want his rear end to be about right here when I end, because there's a point in that live center, and I don't want that point to be in his rear end. That didn't sound right either. I'm just going downhill. It's going to be a long day in the shop. I'm just taking light little cuts here, and I'm getting the shape I want, and now I'm getting pretty close to where I like it. The neat thing about this is that the mouse doesn't have to be a perfect cylinder, it doesn't have to be a perfect oval or anything. It's all up to you on how you want it to look. Now, I want to move this wood here, and this is where the snout is, right? Well, that's a lot of wood to move out. I could use a parting tool. I could kind of come back with my roughing gouge, but I might get a catch because it's such a wide tool. So I'm going to simply take this tool, and what we're going to do is we're just going to chop wood away, just with this motion right here. You see how efficiently that removes a lot of wood. And in my mind, I see the snout of the mouse right there. I guess it's a nose. If it was a snout, it'd be an anteater. But anyway, here we go, like so. And I'm just moving that wood quickly. And this is all real time. I wanted you to see how long it takes to do something like this, because there are a lot of turners who actually turn mice a lot out of their scrapped wood, and then when they go to their craft shows and stuff, they have a really unique project to show and sell that they didn't invest a lot of time in or a lot of wood in. And when you're trying to make a living at turning and selling, time is of the essence, and the materials you use are also of the essence. But you can see now, I'm getting down in there. That's about as wide a cut as I can make with that tip, so let me come back here. One other thing, if you look at my handle now, this is kind of an interesting thing that happens. See how high it's risen up on my hip? Well, that is because the diameter now on the piece is getting narrower. So I have to get in order to get the bevel in contact, I have to raise the handle. So I'm still okay here, but it's not preferable. So if you feel uncomfortable with it, you can actually move your tool rest down a little bit at this point. But that also means that when you go back up to here, your handle's going to be lower. So it's kind of a compromise over what you want to do. This mouse looks like he needs to go on a type of a diet, I think, but he's getting there. Now I just want to get this down to where it's almost ready to take off the lathe, and then I'm going to sand it. And once I sand it, I'll show you how we part this off. Okay, I've been working my way through the grits. I'm on 180 right now. 240 is where I'm going to end up. And some of you have seen this, some of you haven't. This is called Abranet, and I get this from a cool guy, Steve Worcester in Texas, and his called turningwood.com. But anyway, let's take it all the way off. This is a Velcro backing, and this is the Abranet, and it's see-through. It's got mesh in it. So when you sand, the dust doesn't clog it up, and for some reason, I don't know what they use on it, but this abrasive lasts a really, really long time, which is great. So you don't spend a lot of money on a lot of sandpaper. But now I'm going to go with 240 here, and I slowed the speed of the lathe down so I don't burn the wood. If you build up too much heat, it'll actually clog up your sandpaper, or try to clog this. And what you do is you wind up burnishing instead of sanding, which basically means you're rubbing the wood rather than putting the grit to it to get the sanding done. Now that looks pretty good. I'm going to stop this for a second. And one thing when you're using maple, occasionally you'll see little etchings right here. I don't know if you can quite see it. I'll bring my light down at more of an angle. You can see marks because it's going against the grain when I sand. So all you have to do is come in here and hand sand that out with your final grit. And that way you don't see any sanding marks on the wood. Get that out of the way. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to do 2 cuts on the ends here to prepare this for going over to the bandsaw. Because we can't really part this off because I'm using a, what you gotta say? It's a drive center which has a spring in it. And the name of it escapes me right now. I will tell you in a minute when I remember it. But anyway, that spring pushes this into here. So I can't part this off because it'll be pushing against the wood. So I'm just going to make some marks on here. And this is where I'm going with my Ferrari spindle gouge. Smaller tip, much more aggressive angle, and it's easy to make good cuts. The other thing I'm going to do that's important about this is this tool, I'm going to rub the bevel, and by rubbing the bevel when I make my cut, I won't really have to sand that much. And you can see here, the bevel's rubbing right there, and you can see how it burnishes. That's what I was talking about polishing the wood rather than sanding it. Well, you want to burnish in this case because you want to leave a clean surface. And just making a nice light cut. And all I'm trying to do is delineate the rear end of our mouse. I know. It's a weird thing to do, but we got to do it. Now over here on the nose, I'm going to do the same thing. I want to just delineate just a small curve here, because that'll be less sanding for me in the long run. So this is all I'm going to take off here. When you're using woods that are softer than hard maple, such as the walnut, which I made the larger mouse out of, you can't go this thin because this stuff is really fragile and it'll snap. That's why he has a fatter nose. Also, well, he's got a bigger bud, so it kind of matches. Anyway, now it's off to the bandsaw. Now when you use the bandsaw, safety is a very important thing. So when you try to cut things, you almost always want to clamp them. And you really don't want to cut round things on the bandsaw because they have a tendency to roll. So our mouse provides a little bit of a problem. You can try to clamp this, but it's going to be pretty tough because it's already a cylindrical circle, it's round. Okay, but anyway, the thing is first thing I did when I made my prototype is I came right up here and I cut this end off, and it's not going to pull on you much, it's a tiny cut, right? And I turned it around like this and boop, it started popping out of my hand. So the technique on this is if you're going to do this freehand and not use the clamp, keep this end on right here, because then that grabs into your fingers and it's not going to go anywhere. You have a safe and secure hold. Now you reach over here and I'm going to turn the bandsaw on. There we go. So again, we're going to do the fat end first. I've got my fingers braced here. I'm away from the blade, and nothing's going to pull me in on this. And I'm staying just a little bit proud of the bottom. Now, if this is a big, thick piece of wood, you'd have to use the clamp because there's a lot of torque on there. But since these are so small, there's not much torque. So anyway, fingers away from the bandsaw. There we go.
Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood turning tools. Made by a woodturner for woodturners.